Democrats vote no 3 times on bills that will pay federal workers as the government shutdown continues. This is A Better World, and I'm your host, Luis Acevedo. So, I want to preface with this. I just finished watching Trump's concession speech on the government shutdown. He said that he will reopen the government, pay back federal workers quickly, and until February 15th, there will be negotiations as to how money will be allocated to funding the wall. I think President Trump just lost this battle. However, I do want to address some things that the media has inaccurately covering and then give my take on what's going to happen come February 15th. So, a few days ago, on January 22nd, a Congressman, Dan Crenshaw, tweeted out some news that has been receiving little to no media attention in relation to our government shutdown. And the tweet says the following: big deal that never got reported. Last week, House GOP voted to pay federal employees their first paycheck of 2019, despite the shutdown. Only 6 Dems voted with us. It failed. Dem priority is not paying workers or opening government. It is opposing Trump. He's 100% right. And then on January 23rd, Democrats voted against another bill that would pay federal workers while the government remained closed. This time with 4 more Democrats voting in favor. Now remember that this is all Republicans' fault that federal workers aren't being paid. The Democrats aren't to be blamed because, well, the media is telling us it's not their fault. When in reality, we all know that to be completely bogus, because it's easy to see that Democrats are more responsible for the shutdown than Republicans, because they voted for a physical barrier on the southern border in 2006 and during Obama's tenure. The left is showing us that they are willing to use federal workers as pawns to get what they want. I know you can make the same argument for Republicans, but the truth is that Republicans are actively working on solutions while the Democrats sit back and complain, and I think that's what the president was thinking today with his address in the Rose Garden, where he said he will reopen the government without any funding for the wall. I think it's a horrible decision, but before he even made this concession, he was willing to give Democrats something that would irritate even his own base, and that is essentially what you would call amnesty. He was going to give 300,000 temporary protection statuses to immigrants and extend for a 3-year period DACA recipients' work permits. So that upset the base and other conservatives. All he was trying to do was negotiate with the Democrats and getting the funding he wanted, and failed, and today he failed even bigger than before. However, there are some good things that came about this historically long government shutdown, and that is for people who have their eyes open and are being truly objective to the situation, realize Democrats are and have been exposed as political hacks, to the point where people within their own party are breaking rank and speaking out against Nancy Pelosi. For example, the House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer said a wall was not immoral like Pelosi claims. And you have the Homeland Security Chair, Representative Benny Thompson, who has said he isn't opposed to a wall on certain parts of the border. And the list continues to grow for Democrats in support for a border wall. A Minnesota representative, Colin Peterson, said on KFGO's News View segment that, quote, "Give Trump the money. I'd give him the whole thing and put strings on it so you make sure he puts the wall where it needs to be. Why are we fighting over this? We're going to build that wall anyway at some time." He's right. There should be no reason to fight over it. And he's saying give Trump the wall. So hopefully Trump won't have to do a last resort type of deal come February 15th, being that Democrats are starting to see the wall is something we've been funding for a long time, and he just wants to extend where we already have barriers. There should be no point of disagreement in that, which is why Democrats are breaking rank. And on top of that, he even said he brought this up to Democrats, and they looked cross-eyed. I think that most of the Democratic Party has stood strong with being against the wall. However, the government shutdown has proven, like I've already stated, they're willing to do whatever it takes to prevent Trump from achieving his campaign promise. So we're slowly seeing Democrats break from rank, as I've already said. And although there are some Democrats who still disagree with it entirely, I believe there's still a glimmer of hope come February 15th for President Trump and the Democrats to work on some sort of deal for his wall funding. Another Democrat, a senator, who tweeted out the following, that he was in support of the funding for a wall. This was on January 24th, so yesterday. He said, "Today I will vote for both government funding bills because I believe we must end this harmful shutdown immediately. And it's our first opportunity in the Senate to do so. Even though they will probably fail, these votes are a start to finding a way to reopen the government and get West Virginians back to work." So the thing with that is, what would just happen, he no longer has that obligation to side with the wall. So President Trump has a huge issue on his hands, I believe, after his concession speech. He wanted to negotiate. They didn't want to negotiate. It's very disheartening. Although there's another representative on the Democratic Party, Ron Kind of Wisconsin, who said the following in a Milwaukee Journal Sentinel: Democrats and Democratic leaders should recognize that there may be some additional areas on the border that might require some fencing or steel slats. We already have a lot of it done. So we have a very, very, very difficult situation to maneuver through as far as the Democrats and Republicans go. The Democrats are split between people who think the wall should be there and aren't opposed to it, with people who are against the wall simply because it's Trump who wants it and not an establishment Republican or Democrat. It's somebody who's an outsider and they don't like him. So there's a battle within the Republican Party as well. You had 6 senators vote against the wall funding to reopen the government. This was a huge issue on both parties, and that's part of the reason I believe Trump conceded today in his speech, and it's really concerning on how this will turn out in the long run. This could quite literally be where we see his presidency begin to decline. And you can make the argument that his presidency's never ascended one bit. It's always been on the decline. It's only gotten worse since he's been in office. I would think that's a disingenuous argument, simply because he has done a lot of good things and he has won major support for the border wall, and he just gave up on his base, which is very, very disheartening. Although we'll see exactly what happens. And the nice thing about it is the mainstream media is even coming around to saying this is a crisis at the southern border. They have even agreed to that now in a CBS segment where they interviewed a Border Patrol agent, and I'll go ahead and play that segment for you right now.
This group is part of 180 migrants apprehended this morning by Arizona border agents. Fernando Grijalva says this area has become a hotbed for illegal crossings.
I've seen 6 different presidents the time that I've been with the Border Patrol. and this is the worst crisis that I've seen.
You actually will use that word, crisis.
Yes.
Grijalva says these patrols are dangerous, but that hasn't stopped him or agents from doing their jobs despite not being paid because of this shutdown. I mean, they're working without pay. I mean, tomorrow will be the second paycheck that they're missing.
They believe that strongly in the mission, and they know that that we have a job to do.
In this part of the border, this is the only barrier between the United States and Mexico.
And she goes on to show a couple of pretty inadequate barriers to deter people from crossing illegally. They could easily hop over them, let's put it that way. They are essentially a fence that has no enclosure on it. There's no middle piece to it. It's just one beam going across the border supported by a couple of X's, and it's really inadequate to prevent people from hopping over the border. Trucks drive through there, people hop over it, very easy. And in the video they also showed a couple of people who were sitting that looked like to be illegal immigrants or immigrants of some kind, sitting around waiting for something. And so as you can see, the narrative the media tried to push for a long time was that there was no crisis on the southern border. Now we're seeing there is a crisis on the southern border and that the wall will help. Border Patrol agents are agreeing with it, which is a sign we need to be in support of the wall. If people who are the ones protecting the border are saying and agreeing with President Trump, then we should say, all right, if the people who are doing the job at protecting us are agreeing with them, we should probably agree with them as well. And that leads me to what Trump's last resort might have to be if they can't come to an agreement by February 15th. And I don't know if they will. I really don't know if they will. It really concerns me that President Trump was caved in. I know he was put in a bad position, but as time went on, we saw the Democrats' whole narrative slowly crumble. As with the mainstream media's narrative, it all slowly began to crumble. Yet, he gave up. I get it, it's a tough position, but he shouldn't have given up. As time went on, we have evidence to show Democrats were using federal workers as a ploy. We have evidence that everything Trump has said has been proven true by Border Patrol agents. And with that, President Trump may have to, because Democrats will not, for some reason, agree to the fact that there are issues at the southern border that can be fixed with a barrier across them. His last resort move would be, as written in an article yesterday on CNN, that he's already prepared to draft this, and that's a national emergency. A part from that proposal reads the following. The massive amount of aliens who unlawfully enter the United States each day is a direct threat to the safety and security of our nation and constitutes a national emergency. There are a lot of people who disagree with this, that he should not use this. It will not work out for him, although it may be his only option now. And one of those people who disagree with him is a prominent conservative podcast host, Ben Shapiro, and he actually tweeted the CNN article, which I'm referring to, and said the following. So here's how it goes. First, Trump declares a national emergency. Second, court enjoins it. Third, Trump rails against the courts. Fourth, no wall is built. Fifth, Democrats brag they stop Trump. Everybody goes home happy except people who wanted the wall. I think that's exactly right, although there is a good argument to be had in support of Trump calling this a national emergency. Regardless of it, I believe it will result in a loss for him not only in 2019 but in 2020. His presidency will more than likely be over if he doesn't get this wall. I am willing to guarantee that. And is that a good thing? Probably not. As we've seen, part of the reason the stock market has started to fizzle down has a lot to do with the fact that Democrats are starting to enforce more regulations. They even said they're going to undo all the deregulation President Trump has done. That hurts the economy. And if our economy is already in a fragile state with Trump as president, who's trying to get rid of a lot of regulations and encourage economic prosperity, what's going to happen when we have a Democrat in the White House who wants to push more regulations, enforce higher minimum wage laws, effectively killing small businesses? What's going to happen then? Horrible things. Horrible things. This is a horrible move on Trump's part. I don't think that he should have given up that easily. You know, Senator Rick Scott even told Trump he should use emergency powers to end the immigration crisis. And like I said, I don't think he should have done that. I don't think he should do that. But now it may be his only option. This is the last resort, what I was referring to. This may be his only option. So, I mean, the thing is, there are so many points that were missed out in the mainstream, and it's truly sickening to watch our country become even more divided over this issue. This should be one of the few issues that we as a country are in complete agreement with one another. That is, to defend our sovereignty. That's what a border wall will do. People who cross the border illegally are disrespecting our nation. Whether you want to see it that way or not, that is exactly what they're doing. They're breaking the law, breaking the laws in which we as a people agreed upon, therefore disrespecting our wishes. That's equivalent to somebody breaking into your house without any permission, coming into your house without any permission, and starting to live there. And then you have to pay for them or have to put up with their shenanigans inside your house. You just have to. That's what's happening right now with illegal immigration. Obviously, there's a percentage of people who are illegal immigrants on technical terms because of overstaying their visas, but there's a huge portion that just enter the country illegally through the border. And if we can stop that huge portion and reduce it by 90%, which is what is estimated a border wall will do. So, and you know, you could really say this is a national emergency because federal workers were being without pay, the immigration crisis, and the rift within our country would qualify as that. Some would say, and I would have to agree with it. Meaning, I don't necessarily think if Trump declares a national emergency to be wrong in the sense that it's inaccurate, because it's not. But it's wrong because he shouldn't have ever had to do that. He should have held in there strong. Democrats were slowly beginning to cave. There was two times, which we've pointed out here, Democrats did not vote to pay back federal workers. That's disgusting. Yet they claim to be for the people. It's just sickening. It really is. And the only stories that we heard had to do with federal workers going without pay. We did not hear about the protests that took place outside Nancy Pelosi's office, where angel mothers who have lost their kids due to illegal immigration, we didn't see any of that in the media. Yet we hear about stories of people not being able to go to funerals because of the government shutdown and not having enough money to do so, or having just enough money to be responsible and not go. When I hear stories like that, it makes me upset. And it doesn't make me upset for any reason you may assume. It makes me upset because how are you working for the federal government knowing at any time, not at any time, but during any type of budget discussion, during that time frame when a budget discussion is going on, your paycheck is at risk. You, out of all people, should be prepared for the worst to come, because you literally have to deal with national politics. They really affect you directly. So why would you not have a good chunk of money saved away for these worst case scenarios? This is not the first time the federal government has been shut down. This is the first time I believe federal workers have went without pay. But this is still concerning and upsetting that nobody talks about the fact that they weren't saving their money. There's like literally no excuse for it. The only excuses that you could come up with is that you started paying for stuff you couldn't afford and became in over your head in debt. That's your fault. That's your fault that you were living paycheck to paycheck, not anybody else's. If you're living above your means or just right at them and just living paycheck to paycheck, that's your fault, not anybody else's. If you're making $40,000 a year and you're having trouble surviving, you need to downgrade your lifestyle. That's simple. That's simple. My wife and I are 23 and 24, and we understand that. We live well below our means. That way, God forbid either of us go without pay for an extended period of time, we're okay. We're okay. I don't know why it's that hard for people to do that. And nobody talks about that. We're supposed to cry and feel saddened because people are missing work and having to go to government, going to food pantries, etc., to get by. Come on. Come on. We can do better as adults. One thing we can't do is make up for those who have lost a loved one due to our inadequate border security. We can't do that. The government workers who have been without pay will be paid back. We've talked about this so many times on the show. Yet, all I hear are stories about federal workers going without pay. Do I empathize with them? Yeah, they're caught in the middle of something they had nothing to do with. At least most of them do not. So, that sucks. That sucks. But the media is portraying it as one-sided, as if it is only the Republicans and Trump's fault. They aren't talking about how badly illegal immigration affects families across the country. Not once. It's sickening and disgusting. And Mr. President, you messed up. You messed up. They won. You're going to have to declare national emergency, which will result in your failure. You will more than likely not be reelected in 2020. I'm confident in saying that he will more than likely not be reelected in 2020, and we'll have a Democrat in the White House. I guarantee it. Unless, through some grace of God, there is a deal to be had among Republicans and Democrats that give him funding for the border wall. That's the only way. If he has to declare a national emergency, he loses election and he loses this battle. I'm going to go as far as guaranteeing that. We can only wait and see where this will go. Hopefully, I'm wrong. Hopefully, Republicans and Democrats can come to an agreement for the border wall, as they should. We already see Democrats breaking ranks, so maybe I'm being too pessimistic. I'm not sure. But tell me what you think. Let me know your opinions on this. Do you think President Trump should declare a national emergency? What do you think the outcome of that will be? What are your thoughts as to him conceding today? Those are some questions I have for you, and drop some comments on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can find me on Facebook at Luis Acevedo. You can find me on Instagram at A Better World, and YouTube at A Better World as well. So we will see you guys again on Monday. Have a great weekend. Peace.